Hello everyone, welcome to the September 2021 Gaming PC Build of the Month, brought to you by NewbComputerBuild.com. My name is Corey. This month, as per usual, we have the 4 builds, the $1,500, the $1,800, and $500 build. In terms of overall updates, there aren't too many updates in terms of new releases or anything like that that are integrated into the builds, other than the usual preface that some graphics cards are harder to get still, albeit they are becoming a little more available in supply, and however they're still a little expensive, but you can find them. And just to caveat that, all the graphics cards included in the builds here are based on both MSRP, and then there's the realistic price of what they cost right now included into the overall build price. So we'll get to that when we get to the individual builds. Also, a little bit of bad news. CPUs are a bit inflated depending on the CPUs you get right now. There were some newer CPUs that were released in the last few months that are a little more expensive than they should be, so I've swapped those out just to make the builds a little more affordable in terms of the current costs and what the cost will be over the next little bit. So do keep that in mind. All right, let's get started with the $1,500 gaming PC build of the month for September 2021. Again, this build is for those that want to game at high FPS at 1080p and 2K resolutions. And for this one, we have the CPU is the AMD Ryzen 5 5600X. This one is widely available. This CPU is one of the newer Ryzen CPUs. I believe it's been out for about a few months. For a bit, supply was down. Now it's widely available. So you can get this one at $272.99. The cooler is the stock AMD Wraith Stealth cooler. If you want to upgrade that, you can check out the hardware alternatives we have at the site here. If you want to really overclock it, I would suggest getting kind of a better cooler or liquid cooling or something like that. Motherboard we have is the MSI MPG X570 Gaming Plus motherboard, $149.64. The graphics card recommended card is the RTX 3070. The one we have here is the Aorus GeForce RTX 3070. MSRP for this card should be about $530 to $740, but for anyone that's been keeping track of PC builds over the last year knows that this isn't the case, but you can get it right now on Amazon at $1,209.99. Alternative cards, if that's a little much to kind of swallow in terms of a cost for a GPU, there are other alternatives out there. So you can search for obviously other RTX 3070s, or you can go with something like a RX 6700 XT or an RTX 3070 Ti, which might be a little more expensive and perform a little more and technically isn't worth it in a cost per performance ratio, but neither is any card these days. Or you can get an older GTX 1080 Ti, for example, but that's a little expensive at the moment as well, but they are available. Memory we have is a 16 gigabytes of Crucial Ballistics 3600 megahertz memory at $84.99. Storage we have is a Crucial P2 1 terabyte NVMe SSD right now, $104.99. Power supply we have here is one of the newer released Be Quiets. This Be Quiet Pure Power 11 fully modular 750 watt power supply at $114.99. And the case we have is a Cooler Master Box MB511, $89.99. And like I said, two costs included here. So if GPU around MSRP is around that $1,500 mark at $1,558, but with the true GPU cost, you're expected to pay around $2,028. So I would guesstimate in between that right now if you want a build that performs like this one at the moment. $1,000 gaming PC build of the month. We swapped out the CPU this month as we included the newer Intel CPUs last month, the 11400 and the 11400F. However, those CPUs are only good if they actually cost what they're supposed to cost. I think it's like $150 to like $200 more than it should cost right now. So a little insane. But anyways, can't go wrong with the AMD Ryzen 5 5600X. Just brings the cost up a little bit. $272.99. Again, the cooler is the Cooler Master. Oh, that's not the right one. Sorry. You got to swap that one out. The cooler is not the Cooler Master Hyper 212, although you can get that. But we're including the stock Wraith Stealth cooler included here. So ignore the Cooler Master Hyper 212. But you could get that slightly better cooler, and it's about $30. But mind you, that's not included in this build in terms of the cost. Motherboard we have here, anyways, the motherboard we have here is the MSI Mag B550M Bazooka gaming motherboard, $109.99. Graphics card we have here is the XFX Speedster Radeon RX 6700 XT, which is available at about $979 right now. A bit over cost, but a little more affordable than most cards. MSRP around $479.99. And that's MSRP for the 6700 XT. So you can see that this one's a little more affordable in terms of its availability at the moment, and it's a pretty good performing card. Alternative card could be an RX 5700 or 5600 XT. Memory we have again is the Crucial Ballistics 3600 megahertz kit of memory at $84.99. Crucial P2 500 gigabyte NVMe SSD, $54.99. Power supply we have for this one is the EVGA Supernova 650. Fully modular power supply, $72.61. And the case this month is the Fantex Eclipse P400A at $66.99. The two costs could potentially be $1,150 with GPU at MSRP, so suggested GPU costs, or realistically $1,520 with the current GPU cost. The next build, the $800 gaming PC build. This is that high 1080p sort of build. For this one, we have again swapped out the CPU. We had one of the newer Intel ones, but again they cost way too much, way more than they should at the moment. So the CPU we have for this one this month is the AMD Ryzen 3 3300X at $210. Also comes with a Ray Stealth cooler. Motherboard is the MSI Arsenal Gaming B450M Bazooka Max Wi-Fi 9208. A decent motherboard, if you ask me. It's micro ATX, so a small form factor, but a great motherboard overall. Sorry, I retract that. That's not the micro ATX board. This is the regular ATX board, but anyways, great board overall. Graphics card, ASRock AMD Radeon RX 5600 XT at actual price at $729.99, $279.99 at MSRP, again, but it is available at that cost. Alternative cards could be the GTX 1660 Super or the GTX 1650, lesser performing cards, but might be a little more affordable. Memory we have here is a Crucial Ballistics 3600 kit of 16 gigabytes of memory at $84.99. SSD is a Crucial P2 500GB NVMe SSD, $54.99. And then the power supply is the Apevia Prestige 600 watt, $51.99. And then the case is the Zalman S4, $46.99. Bringing this build over to, with the GPU current cost, at $1,271, or with the GPU at MSRP, $821, which is what we want it to be at. But you might need to scale that up to get a build that performs like this at this level. And now for the $500 gaming PC build of the month for September 2021. This build's a little unique as it includes a CPU with integrated graphics, so you do not need a graphics card to get up and running. The benefit that brings you is that you don't even need to worry about getting a graphics card at the moment. You can always add one in the future, but you can kind of just get up, build your PC, and be good to go. Alternatively, if you can get a graphics card, which I'll recommend one down below, you can get a higher performing CPU, but you might pay a little more for your graphics card than you really wanted to in the first place. So two options here. So, but the overall build cost is with the integrated graphics, mind you. So the CPU with the integrated graphics is the AMD Ryzen 5 3400G. That comes out, and that comes with Radeon RX graphics at $304 at the moment. Or a higher performing CPU is the Ryzen 3 3300X at $210 at the moment. This includes the Wraith Spire cooler included, the stock cooler. The motherboard here is, this one's a micro ATX. This is the ASRock P450M Pro 4 at $77.99. And then the graphics card, either integrated Radeon RX graphics, or I would suggest something like the GeForce GTX 1650. A little expensive at the moment. Amazon price is $339.99 at the moment. But again, you could consider other alternative cards that may be available that don't kind of perform as fast, but would be better than integrated graphics, such as the 1050 Ti or RX 560. Memory we have for this build this month, we did upgrade it to 16 gigs, as the 8 gigabyte kits, the two 4 gigabyte, 8 gigabyte kits were kind of similar in cost. I think there's a $7 difference at the moment. So $66.99 for this Team Group T-Force Vulcan 16 gigabyte kit. And then the SSD we have is the PNY CS900 SATA SSD, 240 gigabytes at $29.99. Power supply, Thermaltake Smart 500 at $34. And then for the power supply and the PC case we have is the Deepcool Matrix 50 at $49.99. And this comes out to a total of $562.96. This is the only one that actually includes the actual cost and not the GPU plus whatever the inflated cost is. So that does it for the builds this month. If you have any questions, leave a comment. I'll try and get back to as many as possible. Otherwise, you can leave a comment at the site here at newbcomputerbuild.com. As well, each of these builds has hardware alternatives included with it if you have more to spend or want upgrade ideas for the future and so on and so forth, or visit the site for other reviews. Until next month, best of luck building.